Before you bet a single dollar on the Wyndham Championship, stop. The biggest names will get the public's money, but Sedgefield doesn't care about name recognition. It rewards a very specific type of golfer, and we found the players who check every box. We got an outright value, a bet we like even more than picking a winner. A few long shots the books may have buried too far down the board. This isn't just a Wednesday night picks show. It's the betting guide you can use from Thursday's opening tee shot through Sunday's final putt. Come for the bets, stay for the hang, let's talk some golf, find an edge, and have some fun tonight. What's going on, everybody? It's Off the Hook sports talk that pays off, powered by Pikkit. Tommy Trends here, hanging with my co-defendants, Mookie and Nash. They reviewed tonight's rundown. Nash chewed the first page in the confetti, and while Mookie, he just really doesn't care. He's too busy with his bone. He signed off on it anyway. Legal says we're covered, so it's a go. And this is Tee to Green, and this week we head to Greensboro, North Carolina for the final tune-up at the Wyndham Championship before the FedEx Cup playoffs start next week. And if you're new to the channel, hey, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss when we go live, even when we're fucking late and on island time. And if you're enjoying yourself, smash the like button. It generally helps us grow this thing one show at a time. Stat card tonight, like I said, it's the last event of the PGA Tour regular season with the FedEx Cup cut line on the line and a golf course that defends itself with Bermuda grass instead of water and trees. Look, we're not throwing random picks at the screen and then disappearing before the first tee time tomorrow morning. We're getting into the course, the weather, the stats, and every single name on our card. And then we'll go ahead and post the final card on our X page at OTH Sports Pod. And that's what we do here. We find the bets, explain the why, and then we hang out because nobody signs up to watch a boardroom meeting. So what do you say we tee it off and we get to work and check out the Wyndham Championship in Greensboro, North Carolina, and taking place at Sedgefield Country Club. $8.5 million purse, a little over $1.5 million on the line to the winner. And look, a top 70 FedEx Cup cut line is on the line with 0 events left before the playoffs. 147 players make up the field. And this is the 34th and final FedEx Cup event of the regular season. Look, win and you're in, and miss, well, you're going to watch the postseason at home from your couch. And unlike Detroit Golf Club, this course didn't get any type of restoration, nothing like that. So Sedgefield hasn't changed in any meaningful way in years. Look, we're going to get a Donald Ross double dip. Donald Ross course last week, a Donald Ross course this week, and lots of history here at this course, which typically makes this this tournament one of the more predictable tournaments based on history, player profile, course fits, all that. 2 greens to guess at. Like every stat you're about to hear is going to be built on real, repeatable sample size. And like I said, it's one of the more predictable tournaments that we get on the PGA Tour every year. So we're going to pull every stat leaderboard, look, the full power rankings, selections board, weather. Look, because, weather always plays a factor when it comes to golf. And we'll look at some, maybe some sleepers, some first round. We're going to go through everything. This is an entire betting guide that you can use throughout the entire tournament. And, we want to give you guys something that you can use and watch the replay, fast forward to certain parts, because, look, golf is one of the best sports that you can live bet. And even if your first-round leader's cooked, maybe your outright winner didn't make the cut, well, you can just reset and still live bet throughout the rest of the tournament. So we'll start with some storylines, and then we'll get into the course. And then players that check multiple boxes, and you'll see there's a repeatable pattern as we go through the players here for the Wyndham Championship. And so let's look at some of the storylines coming in here because there's a lot to unpack when you look at this. So obviously, when you look at this week, it isn't really about a player. It's about a number, and that number is 70. And only the top 70 are going to advance to the FedEx Cup playoffs. So look, if you're below 70 in the FedEx Cup standings, well, you're going to go home. So, and the last man standing right now, Jackson Koiven, sits right at the cut line at 70. And look, he barely has 4 professional starts to his name. Obviously, shocking the golf world when he held off Scotty Scheffler a few weeks back for the 3M Open from TPC Twin Cities. And now he has a small cushion, a 12-point cushion over the next man out, which is Mac Meisner. And Mac Meisner only needs a solo 44th to jump Jackson Koiven. And then behind Koiven, there's a pack of tour veterans that are fighting to avoid missing the playoffs for the first time in their careers. Keegan Bradley is 72nd, and he needs a two-way tie for 38th. Jason Day is 75th, needs a two-way tie for 12th to advance. And look, he's withdrawn from his last 2 starts with a back injury, so that's something to watch here. And then we have Brooks Koepka, who just out of nowhere withdrew from last week's Rocket Classic at Detroit Golf Club. So Koepka's got a lot of work to do here if he wants to move on to the FedEx Cup playoffs. He sits right now at 86th in the standings, needs a solo 4th, so he's got a big hill to climb. And we'll see. Haven't heard anything, so Koepka looks like he's going to tee it up tomorrow. I have not heard anything. I'll probably do a little inner Google search and make sure that that's still standing. But as of now, Koepka is expected to play. And Tony Finau, he's 89th in FedEx Cup standings. He needs a two-way tied for 3rd. Now, he hasn't finished better than tied for 6th all season. So, again, he's got a lot of work to do, too. And more than 70% of this field, elimination is pretty much a harsh reality this week. So, again, you don't crack the top 70, you're not going to play again until mid-September when the FedEx Cup fall kicks off. So, look, it's pretty simple. You make the top 70, and you're guaranteed a 2027 tour card. If not, you'll be at home on the couch watching everybody else the rest of the weekend. So, and look, those inside that top 70 cut, they have a shot at climbing up inside the top 50 for full signature event access, or even a top 30 for automatic entry into next year's Masters, U.S. Open, and Open Championship. So there's a lot on the line, and a pretty stacked field this week. And so even the top 100 after FedEx Cup fall keeps full tour status here. To the top 101 through 125, they keep conditional status. And every single one of those checkpoints will get decided this week, or for the most part will be decided this week. And also, one thing I thought was interesting here is what nobody's talking about, or what I've seen little people talk about watching other podcasts and other golf shows. The tournament has a history of rewarding guys who are nowhere near safe. If you look at some of the past winners here, recent winners going back to like 2020. So if you look at the FedEx Cup position, each recent winner actually held walking into the Wyndham Championship. Lucas Glover was 112th in 2023, his first year ever cracking the top 70. Tom Kim, when he won, he was 103rd as a non-member in 2022. And then Jim Herman. Now brace yourself. Jim Herman, I don't even think he's even played an event since this, but Jim Herman was 192nd in FedEx Cup standings when he won this thing in 2020. 197. Look, anything's possible here. So as we go through some of the betting odds and the betting market here, a little bit later in the show, maybe you take a flyer on somebody who's got a crazy long shot. I mean, you never know. This guy was 192nd in FedEx Cup standings and won the thing. So that's absolutely insane. Look, guys are going to be desperate here because there's a lot on the line for some of these guys. And like we said, this is typically one of the more predictable tournaments on the PGA Tour. Look, it's just, we have all this course data, stats, player profiles that fit this. And a couple other things to note here. Back in 65, Sam Snead won here when he was 52. He was the oldest winner in PGA Tour history. It was his 8th win at this exact event. Still the most wins by anyone at a single tour stop. And then 50 years later in 2015, Davis Love III, he won here at age 51, the oldest winner on tour in the Senior Champions Tour era. So it does have a little bit of a soft spot for the graybeards here, so maybe an older golfer gets it done. This is also the 100th anniversary of Sedgefield Country Club, and the 20th straight year the Wyndham has been the title sponsor. Look, this goes all the way back to Brandt Snedeker's breakthrough win here in 2007, and that's the same year the FedEx Cup playoffs launched. So, and again, we said, looking at the course here, we're double dipping this week. Another Donald Ross design course. The course opened in 1926. Chris Spence gave it a little light restoration back in 2007. That's it. Pretty much stayed the same, which again, why this tournament is more predictable as far as Pikkit winners, even first round leaders, especially placement finishes here. So look, no bulldozers, no redesign like we had last week at the Rocket Classic. So again, it's typically going to play the same as it's played for the past 20 years since they underwent that light makeover restoration in 2007. It is a par 70, a little over 7,100 yards, 7130-ish. 12 par 4s, only two par 5s, and 4 par 3s. 9 of those par 4s sit in the 400 to 450 window. Now, the opening stretch of this course, it doesn't let you settle in. Hole 1, 418 par 4, hole 2, hole 2 then stretches to 442. It's not really an easy way to get your day started here. And then the 2 par 5s are holes 5, which is about 529, 530, depending on where the pin's placed. And then hole 15 plays around 545 yards. So that's really your only realistic eagle look all day. Both par 3s on the front, hole 3 and 7. Hole 3 is about 174, hole 7, 223. And then the back 9, the par 3s are at 12, 16. So at hole 12, about 235, and then hole 16, 175 for your yardage there. And really, this closing stretch of holes really could be where this tournament gets decided this weekend. Hole 14 is a brutal par 4, over 500 yards, around 505 yards. And then 18 is even longer at 507. It's a par 4. So 2 of the hardest holes will be on the finishing stretch here. And then, look, it's all dog legs here this weekend. 14 of 18 tee shots at Sedgefield are dog legs. 8 bend right to left, 6 move left to right. So, look, I mean, you really got to be strategic in how you maneuver this. And again, that's really what Donald Ross design courses do. It makes you kind of think your way through the course, and you can't just grip and rip off the tee. A lot of the tee boxes here elevated. You're hitting down to a lower fairway target. Elevation change, obviously, is going to create a tendency to pull shots, and then you have the dog legs. So it's really a risk-reward off nearly every tee. And that's where, again, these Donald Ross design courses are going to make you think your way through. And again, got to be strategic on the tee box. So, look, if you're going to just sit back and pull driver, well, you might be in for a tough day. And then let's look at this Bermuda grass. Wall-to-wall Bermuda grass. The fairways are about 29 yards wide. The 9th narrowest on tour. The rough is like 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches. It's just sticky Bermuda. So, look, if you're missing the fairway here, missing fairway, you're going to really get, it's really penal if you miss the fairway. Ranks 9th worst on the entire tour. Just 52 to 53 bunkers total, roughly. That's the 7th fewest on tour. And as far as how this course is going to defend itself, well, it's going to be the greens and this Bermuda grass. It's not going to be the sand, right? So, and then even the Bermuda fairway divots are filled with sand and seed. And then by Sunday, there's just thousands of fucking little fairway bunkers dotting the short grass. So, look, you're going to get some real tight lies here, which are going to favor the best ball strikers. And we'll break down who fits in those categories. So, look, since the ball is going to be sitting low here and real tight lies, real precise contact is going to matter. The greens are about 6,000 square feet and about 12.5 on the stint meter. And again, these greens, the way Donald Ross designed this, elevated greens and slopes so they drain. And look, it rains here every year, and we'll get into the weather. It's going to rain again this year, so that'll play a factor into this. So the grain is going to lay down away from the putting surface. And look, every chip and every putt, you're going to get a fight from these greens. Half of every hole cut on Bermuda has ripped edge. It's really going to play tough with these guys. And then really how to look at it is play more of a break toward the rip side. And that's really a read that these guys can use day in and day out this week. So, I mean, that's just the way the break is going to favor toward that rip side. Kind of looking here. So, all right, let's look at greens and regulation. So it's kind of like we talked about your tee shots. So normally you're going to say accuracy and distance off the tee, but it kind of, the way the course defends itself really is the greens, the elevated greens, and then the runoff. So your proximity is going to matter here. Scrambling is going to be really important this week. So you kind of go in reverse. Putting is going to matter. So then you work your way back. So obviously you want to be accurate and in the fairway, accuracy more than distance here, because your approach play, again, that proximity to the green is going to matter. So it's kind of a backward way of thinking, the way the course defends itself. So greens in regulation percentage from the fairway, and this is why accuracy matters. 85% of greens in regulation will be hit from the fairway. And that's a steep drop off then when you're in the rough or when you're in the sand. Greens in regulation percentage drops to 51% when you're approaching it from the rough. And if you're in the sand, about 20% greens in regulation will be hit if you're hitting from the sand. That's a huge drop off. So again, the way the greens are elevated and the runoff and the design of those greens, again, that's really the main defense of this course. And then you work your way back. So the fairway accuracy, again, it's not really about distance, right? So some of the longest hitters, you're going to see do well here. And some guys who may be a little bit longer off the tee, they might struggle if they think they can just get up and grip and rip there. So I'm looking here. So if we look at scoring history year over year, we'll go back to 2020. Scoring average here, 68.78. That was 29th hardest on tour. And then 2021, scoring average 68.88. That was his 35th hardest on tour. 2022, scoring average 69.26, 27th hardest on tour. In 2023, the scoring average was 69.47. That was the 23rd hardest on tour. 2024, scoring average was 68.95. That was the 23rd hardest on tour. And then 2025, 69.17. That was the 23rd hardest on tour, about mid-pack there. So, scoring average has crept up recently in the last few years. The course has ranked inside the top 23 hardest on tour 3 straight seasons. So, and look, it's not getting any easier without any renovations. It's just a hard, honest test, really, with these guys. So, course record, Brandt Snedeker shot a 59 here in 2018. And of course, that was, he did win that year. It is a scoreable golf course, so guys can get low here. You just got to get hot, but it doesn't happen often. Some other comparable courses, we can look back to last week at Detroit Golf Club because, again, it's a Donald Ross designed course, so it's going to play similar. Also, look at Harbortown, Sea Island Seaside Course, TPC Sawgrass. Also, look at some stats from Innisbrook, Copperhead, TPC Deer Run, even TPC Twin Cities, Country Club at Jackson. All these courses reward the same straight hitting, precise iron profile type player here. And then we'll look here, some of the course conditions, right? So, I don't know. Some things kind of get ignored here, and we talked about weather. So it rains every year, right? And it's not going to be any different this year. So every single day this week, rain is expected, right? So thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon, and then pretty much every day then through Sunday in the afternoon, you're going to get a chance of rain, thunderstorms. And we already had almost a half-inch of rain fell Monday and Tuesday. And then they had almost 10 inches of rain in July. So, course is going to be soft. And looking at weather, like mid-80s. As far as the wind here, I think I do have a weather graphic. So this is how the weather is going to shape up for this weekend in Greensboro. Mid-80s. It's going to be humid, right? Thunderstorms every day. So, again, the course is already wet. It's already going to play soft. Now, the wind is on the low side. If you look here, the wind never getting out of single digits, around 8-9 miles an hour. And then Sunday, pretty much no wind. I mean, you're looking for maybe 5-mile-an-hour winds on Sunday. Now, if you look, though, some of these gusts that are predicted could climb into the mid-teens. But look, for as far as for a golf tournament, it's pretty calm when you look at wind. So wind shouldn't be a factor. It could just be the rain. It could just get more wet. So again, we'll see how this shakes out. And I mean, who knows? Depending on what kind of storms roll through, you might have stoppage of play. Maybe you get a suspension of play and then have to resume around the next day, going off in split tees. I mean, who knows with weather, right? It's summertime, the Carolinas, so anything's possible, but at least wind is really not a factor this week at the Wyndham. But again, if you look, I mean, it's going to be hot and humid, mid-80s, but the real feel is going to be damn near 100. So, again, and with the rain, soft, receptive greens all week, right? That doesn't mean, look, even though you're going to have receptive greens and they're going to play softer, which the course kind of loses its main defense when you get into that with the way the weather's been. And we said they had almost 10 inches of rain in the month of July. So the main defense of the course is the green and then how you scramble around the greens. Kind of take that away with the wet course conditions. So, again, we could get guys going. I don't think anybody's going to get a 59, to be honest with you. But, we could have favorable conditions, especially with the receptive greens here. So, pretty much, look, it's weather conditions are pretty calm other than the hot, humid weather and then pop-up storms. So, again, you could get guys trying to get aggressive with the scoring and, look, if you have great iron play and great ball striking, I mean, you could really do well here. And then we look at who actually wins here when you look at the breakdown of, we look at the proximity as far as where the shots are coming from and the distribution of shots. So inside 100 yards, you only got about 8% of the approach shots are going to come from within inside 100. When you get to 100 to 125 yards, about 13% of your shots this weekend for these guys will come from that 100 to 125 yardage mark. And then you get to 125 to 150, about 19% of the shots will come from that range. 150 to 175. That's going to be the sweet spot this weekend. As far as your approach play here, about 20% of the shots will come from within this 125 to 150, and also the 150 to 175 range. That's also the sweet spot, 24%. So anywhere from 125 to 175, that's where most of the approach shots are going to come from this weekend, which, again, it's going to reward the great iron players and the precise ball strikers here. 175 to 200, about 16% of their approach shots will come from that range. 200 to 225, then it starts to drop off about 11, maybe 12%. And then 225 to 250, about 8% of the shots. Now, 250 plus. Now, last week we had some holes play long, and you had a higher percentage in like the 225, 250 plus range. This week it's barely 1% of the shots are 250 plus, which is going to make a big difference. So really the window here to look at is either 125 to 150 or really 125 to 175 is the single biggest bucket of distribution of where the approach shots are going to come from. So it's pretty much, almost a quarter of every approach shot hit this week will be from 150 to 175. And if you combine the 125 to 175, well, you're looking at, about 45%, almost 50% of the shots are going to come from 125 to 175. I mean, that's crazy. You're going to think about 50% of the shots in that range. And then, like I said, the bottom list, not even 1% are coming from 250 plus. Now, that number last week, like we said, at Detroit Golf Club was about 15% came from 225 to 250 plus. So, again, you don't want to just grip and rip off the tee and bomb and gougers here. It's not going to really work in your favor. It's the mid-iron, the precise iron play is what's going to get it done. As far as if you look at some of the winning trends and some past winners here, 5 of the last 6 winners finished top 15 in driving accuracy. 5 of the last 6 winners finished top 12 in strokes gained in their approach play. The last 3 winners finished top 11 in proximity to the hole. 4 of the last 6 winners finished top 6 in scrambling. 5 of the last 6 winners finished top 15 in strokes gained putting. 5 of the last 6 winners entered the top 20 in driving accuracy. 2 of the last 3 winners, Aaron Rai, Lucas Glover, they led the entire field in strokes gained on their approach play during their winning week. And then last year, 13 of the top 18 finishers gained over 2 strokes on approach for the whole tournament. So each of the last 5 Wyndham winners had at least one top 5 finish within their last 5 starts leading up to this event. So look, when you look at that, accuracy shows up in damn near every single trend that we just went through. And that's really, look, it's not a coincidence here. I mean, it's really how this golf course plays. It's what the golf course is giving you. So based on those trends, and we're just going to give you I have a top 10 list here. We'll just go through some of these names. And if you look at some of these names that are going to repeat with these trends, that's going to help you put together your card for this weekend. So let's start with strokes gained. And I'll give you the top 10 here on the approach play. So strokes gained on your approach play. This is a top 10 on tour this season. Alex Fitzpatrick, Ben Coles, Tom Kim, Jackson Koiven, Zach Blair, Austin Smotherman, Blades Brown, Brooks Koepka, Joel Damon, and Daniel Berger. Now, some of these lists, Joel Damon, you'll see his name, on here. But look, typically his name shows up, but the results don't pan out, right? I mean, I like Joel Damon, but again, it's just name shows up here, but over the course, sometimes he didn't make the cut, but over the course of the tournament, he never can put a complete 4 rounds together, typically, right? But again, you'll see his name come up on these lists. I'm not taking him. If you want to take a flyer, go ahead, but I'm not feeling Joel Damon, but you'll see his name come up on these lists. So the fairway accuracy here, top 10, Ben Coles, Ben James, Davis Chatfield, Jackson Koiven, Zach Blair, Aaron Rai, Lucas Glover, Joel Damon, Justin Lauer, and Marcelo Rozo. And then percentage of good drive percentage, so to speak. If you're looking at top 10, Ben Coles is another one. Again, you'll see his name across these lists this week. And the interesting thing with Ben Coles, I mean, he's played a lot. I can't remember when the last time he hasn't played a tournament. So he's been playing for a number of consecutive weeks here. But Ben Coles is your leader there in drive percentage. And then you have Jackson Koiven, again, Joel Damon, Lucas Glover, Alex Fitzpatrick, Aaron Rye, Zach Blair, Tom Kim, Austin Smotherman. So what you're looking at as far as the good drive percentage, it counts hitting the fairway plus the misses that still leave a clean angle at the green, or how you're going to approach your shot to the green. So really, it's a real measure of the quality of your tee shot, not just a fairway number when you look at those numbers. But again, you see Joel Damon across multiple lists, but no thanks. And then we look at strokes gained on par 4, because we said there's only 2 par 5s here this week, right? So par 4 scoring is going to matter, obviously, when you don't have, you typically, your eagle opportunities are par 5s, right? So you only have 2 shots this week at it. So, but strokes gained, par 4 scoring, your top 10, Cam Young, Alex Fitzpatrick, Stefano Mazzoli, Ben Coles, Tom Kim, Ben Griffin, Jackson Koiven, Aaron Rye, Brian Harmon, and Doug Gim. Now, Cam Young sits number 1 on the exact hole type that decides this tournament, which again, your strokes gained on par 4. And he's your defending champion, which he's on everybody's card, and rightfully so. But there's some other guys who could also make a run at this thing, and not taking Cam Young out, but we'll get into odds and whatnot. But, I think he'll do well here. But again, we'll have to see. Now, if you look, we talked about the Bermuda greens, and your top 10 strokes gained on Bermuda greens: Webb Simpson, Kevin Roy, Mark Hubbard, Eric Cole, Brant Snedeker, Cam Young, Peter Malnati, Ben Griffin, William Mao, Mackenzie Hughes. Top 10 and 3-putt percentage. So when you look at 3-putt percentage, obviously lower is better. Webb Simpson ranks first in 3-putt percentage. Then you have Blades Brown, Luke List, Jackson Koiven, Bo Hausler, Eric Cole, Austin Eckroat, Nick Taylor, Jacob Bridgman, Christian Bezadenhout round out that list. Bogey avoidance. Again, obviously here, lowest is the best number. Who can avoid bogeys, right? Who can avoid mistakes here? Blades Brown, Ben Coles, Luke List, Bo Hausler, Doug Gim, Christian Bezadenhout, Tom Kim, Jackson Koiven, Cam Young, Ben Silverman. Birdie or better percentage. Top 10. Obviously, here, higher number, right? Higher percentage of birdies or better. Blades Brown is a leader on this list, little over 25% birdie or better percentage. Then you have Kevin Yu, Jackson Koiven, Hayden Springer, Casimir, Keith Mitchell, Ryan Gerard, Stefano Mazzoli, Maverick McNeely, Eric Cole, and Cam Young round out the birdie or better percentage list. So now, if you stack all 8 of those categories together, that top 10 list, look, I mean, you see repeatable names here, right? The same names that keep showing up, all right? You're picking up what I'm throwing down here. That's really how you want to build this blueprint or build this case to build out your card. And we said it at the beginning of the show here. This course, with the amount of history we have and the player profiles year over year, the guys who do well here are typically going to do well. Now, they could go out and shit the bed, not make the cut. It's always possible. But again, here's where the numbers really don't lie. Sometimes you can throw numbers out at a course and they mean absolutely nothing, because then weather could become a play. But really, with the chance of some spotty showers or pop-up thunderstorms here, you're going to have little to no wind. The soft course conditions, the course loses its main defense with the greens and the scrambling ability. So it's giving these guys an advantage right from the start. Again, you're still going to go out and play. But as you look at these names that keep repeating themselves across these lists, that's who you want to start thinking about when you're putting your card together. And look, some of these names, Jackson Coyven, those 8 categories that we just went through, he shows up on 7 of the 8. Ben Coles shows up on 5 of the 8. Blades Brown shows up on 4 of those 8 categories. Tom Kim shows up on 4 of the 8. And then Cam Young, he also shows up on 4 of those 8 categories that we just mentioned. So Jackson Coyven checking 7 of 8 boxes here. I mean, that's pretty much the loudest signal that you're getting on the entire board when you're looking at the repeat offenders and on these categories of what it matters and what it's going to take to get it done here. And look, when you look at Jackson Coyven, he isn't just a hot putter or it's a hot week. I mean, he's the most complete ball striker in this field by a wide margin. So you typically look at these tournaments of the last 36 rounds leading up to an event. So best strokes gained total over their last 36 rounds. We'll start with 1 through 10. Your leader, Jackson Coyven, Blades Brown, Ben Cole, Patrick Cantlay, who did well last week, Tom Kim, Doug Gim, Cam Young, Justin Thomas, Alex Fitzpatrick, and Jackson Suber round out the best strokes gained total in their last 36 rounds of play. So really, it's like the last 9 weeks of play. Coyven, number 1 player on the entire PGA Tour in total strokes gained over his last 36 rounds. And he's got a lot. We said he's sitting at the cut line. He's right at 70. He's got a 12-point cushion. That's it. Mac Meisner is chasing him. All he needs is tied for 44th. And he's gonna jump Coyven. So, but again, do you trust the young kid here? I mean, the eye test says hell yeah, you trust him, and he's got the stats to back it up. And then you look at the best driving accuracy over the last 36 rounds leading up to this event. All right. So this is what you want to look at typically every tournament. When we're on here for TD Green every Wednesday breaking down these tournaments, you look at the recency bias and recently how they're playing over the last 36 rounds or last 9 weeks. So best driving accuracy, Ben Coles, Davis Chatfield, Aaron Rye, Joel Damon, no thank you, Justin Lauer, Lucas Glover, Emiliano Grillo, Zach Blair, Brant Snedeker, Chandler Blanchet. All right. And then, or is it Blanchet? Whatever the fuck it is. But best strokes gained putting, last 36 rounds. Jackson Coyven, Ryan Gerard, Denny McCarthy, Eric Cole, Maverick McNeely, Nick Taylor, Eric Van Rooyen, Vince Whaley, Davis Riley, and Ben Griffin. Again, Coyven, number 1 total strokes gained and number 1 in putting over his last 36 rounds. I mean, he's the projected last man in the FedEx standings heading into the FedEx Cup playoffs. He's also playing the best damn golf of anyone on this list. Now, best strokes gained putting specifically on Bermuda grass. Harry Hall, Bo Hosler, Kevin Roy, Denny McCarthy, Maverick McNeely, Jackson Coyven, Alex Noren, Brant Snedeker, Ben Griffin, Chandler Phillips. And again, look back at those categories. Denny McCarthy, Chandler Phillips both show up on the list. Some of those guys showed up on multiple lists. I mean, this is, again, where you're cross-validating these stats. This is where look, we talked about, your bet getting cooked, your first-round leader is cooked, your outright is cooked by Friday. Well, this is where these stats, and you use these stats, and you use this betting guide all weekend to pull these names out when you're looking at placement finishes here. And that's what really backs up placement play. Right? Yeah, it'd be nice to cash 125 to 1 outright winner, 50 to 1 outright winner. It's possible. Right? I mean, but again, the numbers are so large because you got a better fucking chance of walking out your house and getting hit by a bus than you might have of picking an outright winner at some of these tournaments. All right. But where these stats really come into play is when you're looking at placement finishes. Because a lot of times, you know, but again, everybody does their stuff different. What I typically do, we'll put out the card on our X page at OTH Sports Pod. It's also posted on Pikkit. You follow us on Pikkit there. You can find it there. And then, by Friday, I'll start looking at, if my outright winner missed the cut or is just way back and just struggling, right? Because you can tell, again, weather's going to be pretty consistent throughout the entire 4 days here. So if a guy's struggling Thursday and Friday, barely made the cut, you got to see something in his game, especially iron play or how he's scrambling or putting, to, maybe try to hedge a bet you have earlier with that same player, or take a flyer on him if the number's large. But if you're not seeing something, how he's playing, right, and he's not maybe in one of these statistical categories that we just went through, you're going to look to start pulling names off these lists that we just went through for replacement finish. But I'll start looking then, Friday as we head into moving day, and you'll get good numbers still. Might not be 125 to 1, but you'll still get good numbers. And that's where you use these stats really throughout the course of the tournament for placement play and live betting. Because again, you'll still get good numbers on some of these guys, even if it's just for a top 20, maybe even just a top 10. Maybe you parlay. The last 2 weeks, we cashed a 4-leg parlay in both the last two tournaments, just for placement finishes. And some, I think the last week's was like 35 to 1 on a 4-leg parlay. I think the week before might have been a 45 or 50 to 1. Again, you just have to watch how the guys are playing. And look, those parlays were taken and live betting. It wasn't pre-tournament. So, again, it's really going to matter when you're starting to put the live betting cards together. And if we can look here too, the best par 70 scorers on Bermuda. Now, this is taking into account minimum 10 rounds in the past 2 years on Bermuda grass. Best par 70 scorers, this list. Top 10, Aaron Rai, Mac Meisner, Patrick Fishburne, who did well last week, Cam Young, Denny McCarthy, Bo Hosler, Harry Hall, Ben Griffin, Hideki Matsuyama, Davis Thompson. Past two champions here sit inside top 4 of that list. Cam Young, Aaron Rai, your past two winners here. And then if you look at, they do power rankings coming into this, like the top 15. So we'll kind of go backwards. Bud Cauley, right? 36-year-old, pair of top 20s in 4 starts since the RBC Canadian Open. And then he's as far as he's Bud Cauley 5 for 10 at Sedgefield with 3 top 15 finishes. And then if you 14th on this list here as far as power rankings, Blades Brown. Right now he's sitting at 66 to 1 for an outright. Ranks 9th on the Korn Ferry Tour points list, 94th in the official World Golf rankings. I mean, the 19-year-old, he's cashed 12 straight starts over 2 tours. Korn Ferry MPGA. 10 were top 20s, and tied for 5th, tied for 6th in his last 2 starts. So pretty consistent from Blades Brown. Christopher Ventura sitting at 13th in the so-called power rankings. 3 top 15s in his last 4 starts. Michael Kim, he's 59th in FedEx Cup standings, tied for 5th here in 2023. Davis Thompson, 55 to 1 for an outright. 2 top 10s in his last 2 weeks. And then since 2023, Davis Thompson has finished no worse than tied for 22nd here. Gained strokes with a putter in his last 2 events here. Ryan Gerard, 29 to 1 outright winner. He's on an upswing if you look at Ryan Gerard, even though he had a little bit of difficulty in the bunker last week. Daniel hit himself in the face on his bunker shot. But Top tens in his last 2 starts. So, I mean, maybe the third time's a charm here. He finished, like I said, top 10 in in his last 2 starts here. And then we look at Justin Thomas. You heard his name on the stats we just went through on some of these characteristics of player profiles who fit here. So Justin Thomas, 33-1 as an outright. Now, again, a little bit up and down, but he's played better this year than he has in the past few years. Tied for 12th in his last start here, which was in 2023. And he hasn't played in a couple weeks, so he's well rested. Now you look at Sungjae Im. Scoring average in 28 rounds sits at 67.07. 2 top 15s in his last 3 starts here. And he's the only person in the field with as many as 6 appearances and has not missed a cut here. 7 for 7 with 3 top 10s. And I don't know. Maybe take a flyer on him. I mean, he hasn't missed a cut. JT Poston, 66-1 as an outright. I remember he won the Memorial 2 months ago. So, I mean, he's done well here in the past. Aaron Rai, looks like we said, won here in 2024. Now, since his performance at Aronimink is kind of quiet, right? You haven't really heard much from him. But look, even though he's been kind of quiet, still 2 top 20s. Tied for 5th last year, defending the title. Jackson Koiven, 20-1 for an outright. He was tied for 5th last year here. Ben Griffin, Carolina kid. 3 for 4 at Sedgefield with a 4th, a tied for 7th, and a tied for 11th here. And Ben Griffin is 36th in FedEx Cup standings. 28-1 as an outright. Hideki Matsuyama, 25-1 as an outright. He's had back-to-back top 10s. That's the first time in a while he's had back-to-back top 10s. He's kind of been up and down all season. And both of those were top 5s at the 3M and the Rocket Classic. Tom Kim, 36-1 as an outright. Obviously winner of the Genesis Scottish Open. And he has 3 top 20s in his last 6 starts, including a tie for 20th at 3M Open. Look, and he had 4 sub-70 rounds there. And he's your 2022 Wyndham champion. So, look, he's kind of hot at the right time here. And then there's Cam Young, who's like 8.5-1. Obviously, I mean, Cam Young's been playing great, especially of late. He got his first tour victory here. I mean, look at this 12-month stretch he's been on. 2-time winner. Tied for 8th last week. Went real low. Fired off a 61. So those are kind of looking at power rankings of guys heading into this tournament in Greensboro at the Wyndham tomorrow. Looking at some of these, if you're starting to get some of these odds and where some of these guys sit, maybe you look, Aaron Rai, we said he's been kind of quiet of late. First round leader, 45-1. First round top 20, almost 3-1 for that. Look, he's not crazy long, but he's one of the most accurate drivers. And that's what we say. You don't need to be long. You need to be accurate. You don't have a lot of room to work with fairways at about 29 yards wide, one of the narrowest on tour. And he's a great iron player, and which the iron players are going to do well this week. That's what you're going to see. With these crazy green complexes and what they demand, even though they're soft with the recent rain, the iron play is going to matter. And if you look at Aaron Rai, statistically, he does pretty well first round. Only one first round lead this season, but he's finished top 20 after round one in almost 40% of his starts. That's nearly 11 points higher than the implied odds on that plus 275 number. Right? So, again, finished top 20 after the first round in almost 37.5, almost 40% of his starts. So, maybe you take a flyer on Aaron Rai just for a first round top 20. And then Hideki Matsuyama, as far as maybe an outright first round, 23, 24 to 1. Again, we said he tied for fifth last week. But last week, though, Hideki led the field in strokes gained tee to green and was second on his approach play. And week before, he was tied for third in Minneapolis. 19 for 19, making the weekend on tour this season. 34 cuts in a row, dates back to May of 2025. Now, really, if you look at his play, what's really held him back, though, has been his driver. But he's gaining strokes off the tee in each of his last four. And this course doesn't punish your tee shots the way other courses do. So, again, it's really about accuracy. Ryan Gerard, 29 to 1 for your first round leader. We said he's tied for 8th last week, 16th in FedEx Cup. So, I mean, he's pretty safe to play all three playoff events regardless of this. But look, it's the win really that's eluded Ryan Gerard. And he's also looking for a President's Cup spot this fall as well. So, Tom Kim, 36 to 1 for odds as a first round leader. Davis Thompson, 55 to 1. And Davis Thompson, back-to-back top 10 finishes at the 3M Open and the Rocket Classic. He's gotten progressively better here at Sedgefield the last 3 years. 22nd in 2023, 12th in 2024, and 11th last year. And then runner-up at Detroit. So, I mean, he's done well on Donald Ross courses. He's also a former John Deere Classic winner, which, again, that course translates to this course and the player profile, right? Again, those are how these guys play on similar courses. That does those numbers travel well, right? And then there's Ben Coles, right? Made his first ever PGA Tour start right here in 2012. I mean, look, he's looking for a win. Won on the Corn Ferry Tour, is 95th in FedEx Cup points. So, look, Ben Coles is on the line. He's fighting for a tour card. I mean, look, either way, top 100 in FedEx Cup, you get full tour status. So, just look at how well he's played of late. And the heartbreaker at the John Deere a few weeks back. I mean, hitting that approach shot into the water on 18th. The finish there. I mean, that was just a heartbreaker for him. So, a couple others looking. Blades Brown. We talked about him quite a bit. Ben James is another one. Ben James, what's interesting, he made 7 of his first 8 cuts as a pro. He was actually tied for 4th at Corrales Punta Cana last month. So Ben James playing well of late. So I don't know, Ben Griffin, like a bounce back here for him. For the last 7 Wyndham winners, and 8 of the last 20 have strong Carolina ties. So Ben Griffin, local kid, does he get it done here? Ben Griffin in 4 Sedgefield starts, he's finished tied for 11th, tied for 7th, missed the cut in 4th. I mean, it's really kind of twofold here, right? He's second in the field on Bermuda greens, 16th in strokes gained putting. I mean, and pretty much a wedge master. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Ben Griffin's a solid play here. Let's look at some other values here. Blaze Brown for a top 30 finish, plus 156 right now. I believe those are DraftKings. I kind of like that play, though. I mean, if you just look at Blades Brown and the stats we went over and where he kind of fits, he's finished top 20 in every tour start this season, except he missed the cut at the Cognizant, and he's tied for 40th at Valspar. I mean, if you take those two events out of it and look at his resume, it's pretty damn good. Solo third at the Puerto Rico Open, tied for 9th at Myrtle Beach, tied for 14th at the Byron Nelson, tied for 12th at John Deere, tied for 11th at Corrales. He hits fairways damn near close to 68% clip. Blades Brown. Look, 77% at John Deere, 78% at Corrales. I mean, and look at his short iron and mid iron game. It's pretty damn good. So 75% top 30 rate this season. I mean, look, Blades Brown. I like that number, plus 156 for a top 30. Now, there is we talked about Ben Coles too with the workload. That's the only hesitation here with Blades Brown is the workload. I mean, he's just played a ton of golf, and I mean, like he's playing 2 tours and just playing a ton. Same with Coles, but I don't know. Sometimes, again, it depends on the golfer, right? Sometimes playing a lot can hurt these guys, and sometimes they just get better. But I don't know. He fits a profile, same as Coles. Kind of look at some other numbers here based on what we were talking about. A couple of names we haven't really talked about. Well, we talked about Justin Thomas, who's 33-1. Davis Chatfield is another interesting one. Maybe take a flyer on him. Even Brian Campbell. Some other numbers looking at first round leader. I mean, we just talked about Blades Brown. 70-1 for first round leader. Brandt Snedeker, 110-1. Davis Chatfield, same thing, 110-1. Brian Campbell, 160-1. Yeah. I don't know. Again, different way of attack. And we talked about the short number on Rye, but he's been good. So maybe a different way to attack it. Take some of these guys in the second market for first round leader. I like Blades Brown. Either for that top 30, maybe take a flyer on him for first round leader. Maybe Justin Thomas. I'm looking at some other guys here. A couple of guys I kind of jotted down here. Maybe some guys flying under the radar. Now, if you go back and watch the replay of the characteristics, the player profiles that fit, a name you heard over a couple of categories, Denny McCarthy. So, again, we talked about really the stats here that we give you guys on the betting guide each week for these tournaments. The stats are really going to help you in these placement markets, right? You know, Denny McCarthy, top 20, plus 305. Look, he's only a week removed from season best, tied for third. Actually 2 weeks ago at the 3M Open is tied for third. And 3 top 20s and 8 career starts here at Sedgefield. Tied for 11th last year. Like he closed with a 63. Denny McCarthy's still one of the best putters that you'll find. Now, again, some of that mojo has kind of fell by the wayside of late, but, I mean, he knows how to get around this track. So he could be an interesting play for top 20 at plus 305. I like that number. Enrico Hoey, top 30, plus 210. I'm just looking at some of his numbers here. 2 for 2 for Rico Hoey making the cut at Sedgefield. Tied for 22nd on his debut in 2024 here. And Rico Hoey, really, his best work is really tee to green, but he gained strokes across his whole bag in Detroit. When you look at his numbers. Now, look, all last week, 4 rounds, sub 70. Tied for 15th. I mean, maybe he gets it done. Then you've got Chandler Phillips here for top 40, plus 194. He's 90th in FedEx Cup standings. Tied for third a couple weeks ago at the 3M Open. 2 for 2 here at Sedgefield. Tied for 38th in 2024. 34th last year. Look, we're just saying top 40 at damn near 2 to 1. And look, he doesn't mind pressure either. Solo second at the Butterfield Bermuda Championship last fall. And, that took him from 139th in standings back to the top 100 for his card. So, look, he was under a pressure cooker last year, and that didn't matter. And he kept his tour status. So, again, this is kind of where we look. Again, it's not just about outright winner or, top 5, right? Some of these placement markets, when you get top 10, top 20, top 30, you still get good numbers on some of these guys. And that's where really the stats are kind of helping you with this betting guide. Now, as far as the recent history here, right? So we talked about, looking at the past 16 years, right, of winners. So, and we'll give you some of the numbers here. So Cam Young last year, he's your defending champion. He was 22 under. Aaron Rye, when he won it in 2024, was 18 under. Lucas Glover, 20 under. Tom Kim, he was 20 under. Kevin Kisner, 15 under. And we talked about Jim Herman. What was he, 192nd in FedEx Cup standings, and he hoisted the trophy in 2020. He was 21 under. JT Poston was 22 under. Snedeker, 21 under. I mean, look, even if you look down, Davis Love the third in 2015, he was 17 under. Patty Reed in 2013, 14 under. Sergio Garcia in 2012, 18 under. Webb Simpson in 2011, 18 under. So 16 years past winners, the winning score has barely even cracked 24 under. I mean, you're not getting extremely low numbers. I mean, looking at the past 16 years, Cam Young was 22 under. JT Poston in 2019 was 22 under. Henrik Stenson, 22 under in 2017. I mean, barely over 20. I mean, most of these are mid to high teens for your winning score. 17 under, 18 under, 14 under, couple 18 unders, couple 17s. So you're not really getting crazy low scoring like we've seen at some other courses. Again, a little bit more favorable conditions because of the softer greens this week. So, I still don't think you're going to get. I don't think we get. I think it's going to be maybe around 19. Maybe we get to maybe 18, 19, maybe 20 under. I don't think we're getting 22 like what Cam did last year. Maybe we will, but I just don't see it. Now, a couple things too, like when you look at where these guys, we talked a little bit about this. So when guys entering this tournament and then who won it. So Cam Young last year, when he won, he was 40th in FedEx Cup standings entering this tournament. Aaron Rye in 2024, he entered at 53rd in the FedEx Cup standings. Lucas Glover was 112th. And he won it in 2023. That was the first year he's ever been inside the top 70 after that win. Tom Kim was 103rd. Kevin Kisner was 69th. And then Jim Herman was 192nd. So it really doesn't really matter when you look at it's kind of just all varies where these guys are in FedEx Cup standings entering this week. It doesn't really matter. And you look at it though, half of these guys were fighting for their season and they won it. So that's really what you're going to get this week. So if you're looking at long shots, well, again, you don't really have to be afraid of a name that's, far from the cut line, right? Because you had some guys who were fighting to stay on tour and ended up winning. And then if you look at course history since 2020, top 10 for best course history here since 2020, Cam Young, Billy Horschel, Mac Meisner, Tom Kim, Max Grazerman, Alex Noren, Patrick Fishburne, Sungjae Im, Ben Griffin, Webb Simpson. I mean, Cam Young, again, it's why he's you're seeing his name all over, short odds. Was it 8.5 to 1, depending on what book you're using. I mean, look, he's the single best course fit at Sedgefield since 2020. And that's really about as clean as an angler. Even 8.5 to 1, that's still a good number. Now, we talked about similar courses. Harbor Town. And you'll see names across these lists. So, and Patrick Cantley, so best course history from Harbor Town. Patrick Cantley, Andrew Novak, Daniel Berger, Brian Harmon, Matt Kuchar, Cam Davis, Justin Thomas, JT Post, and Maverick McNeely, Chris Kirk. And we talked about guys who do well at courses that are similar to this. Any course, really. I like taking guys who play well on similar courses because those skills travel well, right? Or tend to, anyway. Again, anything could happen. Injuries. Guy could just, have one bad round and open your round and then fighting just to make the cut and it doesn't happen. But again, if they do well at similar courses, I like guys, no matter what course it is or what tournament it is, I'd rather take a flyer on a guy who's done well at a similar course than just picking a long shot. Colonial is another course that is a similar fit to this. Again, course history there, Mac Meisner, Bud Colley, Ben Griffin, Keegan Bradley, Jordan Spieth, Hideki Matsuyama, Matty Schmid, Michael Kim, Pearson Cootie, Justin Thomas. And then TPC Twin Cities, a couple weeks ago, we were just there for the 3M Open. Alex Noren, Max Grazerman, Tony Finau, Emiliano Grillo. I do like Emiliano Grillo this week. I think he fits this course well. Taylor Moore, Sam Stevens, JT Poston, Matt Wallace, Lee Hodges, Patrick Fishburne. Again, you see this repeatable, these names repeating on this list, right? So between Sedgefield, Harbor Town, Colonial, TPC Twin Cities. Look, even you can go back to last week at Detroit Golf Club. It's a Donald Ross course. So you can even go down that rabbit hole and look at guys who normally do well on Donald Ross courses. Well, they're probably going to get around this track pretty well then as well. And again, the list that we just went through, similar course profiles, the names that keep repeating, Ben Griffin, Mac Meisner, JT Poston multiple times. And again, the skill set travels, right? Yeah, and kind of looking here too at just again, we talked about weather a little bit, right? So just day by day. Tomorrow is probably going to be as far as I guess probably the strongest winds of this tournament around 9. Maybe you get the 10-mile-an-hour winds. And so I don't really see because a lot of times, depending if the guy's going off in the morning or the afternoon, some of these tee times have an advantage, especially when you get weather involved, right? Even just, I don't know, I kind of feel like sometimes, again, it also depends on the weather, but guys that go out in the afternoon sometimes have a disadvantage. Of course, the greens could be all chewed up by the afternoon, and then you factor in weather, could make a difference. So that's something to be mindful of, especially when you're live betting. But tomorrow, really no tee time edge like there was last week. I guess the only real variable throughout these next 4 days is the risk of storms and some rain. I mean, if you look at, given the track record of Aaron Ryan, his fast starts, this might be the day that he, the first round leader number for Rye or the top 20 number. I mean, it could be favorable for him, even though he's been kind of quiet since Aronimink. Then you look at Friday as we go to cut day. Now, over the last decade, the cut line is around, 2, maybe 3 under par. But you have a stacked field this week. The softer greens now. I think that cut number might be like maybe 3. I think this cut line could get to 4 under, right, with the soft greens. Now, depending on what kind of rain or storms show up, that could also play a role in there. But if it's just a passing shower or a quick storm, I think this cut line, even though it's been like 2 under, maybe 3 under over the last decade or so, I think we might push this thing to 4 under as a cut line. So again, the afternoon players could be at a disadvantage depending if this weather rolls through. And then you look at moving day, right? So scrambling is going to be really important here, especially these softer greens. 10 inches of rain in July, rain all this week. This is going to be a more aggressive pin axis than usual. So scrambling around the greens, these stats are going to matter here when you get into moving day. Well, and then you get into the final round on Sunday, and this is going to be the hottest day of the week, sitting somewhere around 90, real feel around 100, lightest wind, and then more storms in the afternoon. I mean, we could be talking about a weather delay, and it's a real possibility. The back 9, this closing stretch on Sunday in the final round, we get some type of weather rolling in. Could affect the finish here. And then we talked about earlier the closing stretch, the 505-yard par 4. It's hole 14, and then this monster 507-yard par 4 at 18. Look, we said this finishing stretch of holes here, this might be where the tournament's decided. And again, it's prime, it's ripe for live betting here, right? Which is why, you look at how the guys are playing. Some guys buckle under pressure here, shit the bed and shank one. It's possible. I think you get some interesting play, especially if, Sunday seems to be the real threat of storms with the crazy weather Sunday afternoon. I don't know. We might see an interesting finish here, especially with this closing stretch of holes from 14 to 18. And then always look at the FedEx bubble, right? If guys are in the mix, right at that cut line at 70 for the FedEx Cup standings, I mean, we might get some real interesting play. And that's, again, when you look at past winners here, an outsider as a champion is not unrealistic at this event. So maybe you take a flyer on a long shot, a bigger number, as a winner on Sunday. It just really depends on, again, it's the eye test really and how they're playing, and look at their strokes gain and their approach play. How accurate are they off the tee, right? And again, don't really panic either. If your guy has one bad round, maybe he has a bad day on moving day, but is still right in the mix. Well, doesn't mean he's completely out of it. Because again, weather could be the biggest factor here Sunday afternoon based on the latest weather forecast. So we could have stoppage play. Maybe we even get Monday golf, depending on how bad the storms are or how late in the day they are. So again, just to kind of recap what we looked at over the past hour or so, the player profile that fits this course: elite strokes gained on your approach play. Look, if you're a proven Bermuda putter, who's going to have the least mistakes? So bogey avoidance, right? You want to be clean, or as clean as possible. And really, sometimes, look, we throw these numbers out, and again, sometimes numbers are just numbers and it doesn't really mean anything. But this course, year after year, guys who fit this profile do well. And again, doesn't mean they're winning, because we just said it's a mixed bag of winners of where they are in FedEx Cup standings, guys with tour cards on the line, careers on the line, season on the line, and they've come from back of the pack, long shots, and won. Right? But it's, placement finishes. Top 5, top 10, top 20, top 30, top 40. The guys that fit this profile typically do well, and that's really where you could be really profitable from a betting standpoint. But also, sometimes, we're giving you numbers, we're giving you stats. I don't think this course, though, is one where you completely throw them out the window. But a guy who maybe hasn't done well here, maybe, similar courses doesn't do well, but is trending up and has done well over the last 36 rounds, or the last, 9 weeks, maybe even last 8 weeks, maybe even the last 5 weeks. A guy is trending up and to the right. That does mean a lot. So just because they haven't played well at similar courses, or, doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to do well here. Just look at the recency bias and recently how they're playing. It's like any sport. Sometimes you just have a feel. Might not fit the profile, but you're like, this guy's playing well. And then you take a flyer on it, right? And then again, we said the weather is going to be soft, scoreable, greens, mistake-free target golf, really. But again, we'll see if other weather rolls in. But the normal defense of this course is the greens and the runoff, and you're scrambling. Now, scrambling's still going to matter, but if these greens weren't as soft they were, and they wouldn't have had as much rain as they had in the past 5-6 weeks, we'd be talking about a different way to attack this course. But again, a little softer greens, it's going to hold the shots a little bit more than what we would normally see. So, and again, this course does not really care where you are in FedEx Cup standings, because we've seen some crazy, guys, 103, 192nd, right, 112th, whatever the numbers were. Some real long shots that you wouldn't think when you look at the FedEx Cup. So if you just want to look at the FedEx Cup standings, you're going to take somebody who's in the top 30. Maybe that's not the play, because we've seen guys from all over the FedEx Cup standings win here. Again, season on the line, tour card on the line. There's a lot for some of these guys. And again, we said length matters here, but not as much as accuracy and your mid-iron play. Because again, the sweet spot, really, 50% of your shots on the approach play are going to be from like that, 125 to like 175 range. So that's going to reward these iron players, the mid-iron, and the precise ball strikers here. It's not who's just going to be long off the tee. So your iron players, they're going to do well over 4 rounds, provided they make the cut and are playing weekend golf. So that's really it. A little bit of a shorter profile this week. Again, it's not really, I mean, this course profile, again, we have the stats to back it up. And again, anything's possible, but for this course, and if you listen to any golf show, they all say the same thing. And you watch this tournament year after year, placement finishes, where these guys are finishing, might not win, but just statistically, year in and year out, guys who play this, maybe guys who haven't played it in a couple of years will come back and play, and they'll still do well because they know how to get around this track. Or guys who do well at Donald Ross courses. Well, these guys will be at the top of the leaderboard or top 20, maybe top 30, but you'll still get a good number on these guys. So that'll do it for the Wyndham Championship betting guide, preview, whatever you want to call it. But again, the idea behind these shows here on Tee to Green is to give you a betting guide to use throughout the tournament. And it's not, some shows will go on and just pick outright. Look, picking outright when I have a better shot at walking out of my house getting struck by a bus. The odds are so, and that's why you have such a large number as an outright. It's difficult to pick an outright week in and week out. We had Cam Young earlier at the Cadillac Championship at Trump Doral. It's the first time I had an outright winner in a long time, like over a year. It's tough. Even a first round leader is tough, but that's why the number is large. But the way I approach it is a little bit different. Like I said, I'd look at the stats, whether it's this tournament or any other tournament, is the numbers to find out where guys statistically would finish, or the likelihood of them finishing a top 10, a top 20, a top 30, top 40, right? To me, that's where the value is on the betting board. More predictable, especially here at this course. It's again, anything could happen, but outside of the recent rain they've had the past 5-6 weeks, the pop-up storms that are predicted all weekend long, you're not going to get hardly any wind, maybe 9-mile-an-hour winds tomorrow, and then they're going to be like 4 or 5 mile an hour. It's really going to not really be a factor throughout the weekend. So other than pop-up thunderstorms, we're not going to really see weather impact. It's going to be very similar weather conditions throughout this entire tournament. I don't really see an advantage of guys morning or afternoon tee times. And again, that could change, but I mean, other than the pop-up storms, like last week, we saw completely different conditions from guys going off in the morning to the afternoon. So I think pretty consistent this week as we close out the PGA Tour regular season and then look ahead next week to the FedEx Cup playoffs as we wind down another PGA Tour season. It's crazy. It feels like not too long ago we were on here with Evan Grube from Woodstone Country Club and Grube Golf and talk about Masters, and now we're here talking about the end of the PGA Tour season and playoffs coming up. But that does mean one thing, that football is right around the corner. So but that's it for the Wyndham Championship preview betting guide. And hey, we gave you a reason to think a little bit differently tonight on this show. Hopefully you laughed a little bit, maybe found a betting edge you haven't thought of. That's what Off the Hook Sports is all about. We'd love to have you along for the ride. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on X at OTH Sports Pod. Every subscription, every follow, every share, it all helps us to keep growing this thing the right way, week in, week out, every show, one show at a time here. So appreciate the follows, the likes, comments, all that good stuff. We do this thing 5 days a week, sometimes more. Building the sports community the right way. No paywalls, no VIP packages, no subscription fees, no pay-to-play picks, none of that bullshit. There's sports talks and betting insight, community of people trying to get a little bit better every day. Hey, come for the bets. Stay for the hang. If you're not using Pikkit yet, come on. What are you doing? Go to the Google Play Store or the App Store and get that Pikkit app. You set up your account, put in code OTH and sync a book. Come have fun with us on Pikkit. All our picks posted on Pikkit. Look, it's what powers the show and what helps us keep track of all our bets all throughout the year. We're on here all the time. So make sure you go get that Pikkit app and come have fun with us on Pikkit. And look, we talked about football. Our 4th and Goal series, which is everything college and NFL football, that is up on our YouTube page at OTH Sports Pod. Another division preview will drop Friday. That will be the AFC West. That drops Friday. Next week, Dustin Sweetelson from VEASAN will be here. We'll do the NFC East. We're going to do it this week. A little scheduling conflict. We'll do it next week. And he'll be back for that. That will be one you don't want to miss. But in the meantime, AFC West will drop Friday. We have the NFC West. We have the AFC North, NFC North. All that is up there to get you ready for the NFL season. And college football preview show will be probably like 2 weeks from now. We'll let you know when that happens. But football is right around the corner. We have a Hall of Fame game tomorrow. And we got football. Golf ending, but we go right into football. So it's a win-win. And we will be back here tomorrow. More MLB plays. We'll talk football and whatever other kind of fuckery we get into tomorrow. Well, that's a wrap for the Wyndham Championship preview. I'm Tommy Trends. My boys Mookie and Nash staring me down. I'm wondering why the fuck I'm still talking, because they want to go for a walk. This is Off the Hook sports talk that pays off. And remember, the sports books, they don't give refunds. Make sure you do your homework. You shop the lines with that Pikkit app. Manage your bankroll. And never stop looking for an edge. Good luck on your bets tonight. We're back here tomorrow. MLB. We'll talk golf. Round 1 update from the Wyndham Championship. We'll make sure we get you that. And whatever else we got on tap for tomorrow. And join us tomorrow. We're back tomorrow. Good luck. Good night. It's walkie time. We'll see you tomorrow.